HiSec Buyback offers 90% JITA anywhere in HiSec. Simply go to hisec.evebuyback.com, appraise your items, create a contract, and get paid quickly.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Talking in Stations. I'm your host Rahne and I'm joined by our fabulous engineer Nick, who will be working in the background, as well as Shen, our guest for the week. But
Hello.
Hi Shen. Shen, you are also a staff member of TIS, so you are both a guest as well as like kind of one of our knowledge sources.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a little background about you? I feel like it's been a few weeks since you've been on.
Yeah. So I'm flying with Dracarys down in the south, along with Imperium. I do a lot of things. Sometimes it depends on. I have a lot of things set up, like HiSec, LSec. So it's really I do a variety of things.
Nice. Okay. And you're with Dracarys. And so for folks who aren't aware, our current topic today will be the war in the South. So which side of the war are you on? Because I'm assuming you are in that war.
Yeah, I'm on the Imperium side.
Alrighty. And I know we've had some developments. I feel like we've had a lot of developments. I think Imperium did a big push. Like, if I'm going to summarize this kind of adequately, sorry, T, my cat is in the way. Like, Imperium did like this massive push, and then the opposing forces, which are fire, did a push back. And then now I think Imperium sounded the retreat. I think that was the latest news from Horde pings.
Yep. So essentially, well, it started about half a year ago when Fire started harassing RMC, and that's when the SIG deployment happened. And then SIG deployment pulled back, and then Fire followed up, and then basically killed the 68 FT Keepstar. And that's when the full coalition deployed all the way. We started with only fighting Fire, and then recently Horde deployed as well, and then basically we see the numbers not really working out, and basically we just pulled the deployment back.
I gotcha. So I know, so if we talk about it, so it's like kind of like Pan Fam and Friends, so Horde and Friends, and then Imperium and Friends. But are Fire and RMC pulling out of the war, or are they going to continue fighting for that space? Because technically, that's their home.
Yeah, it depends on how far I guess Horde is gonna willing to help Fire to push. If they're all gonna push to Esoteria, where they're gonna stop at the entrance, it's really a question of how far each side is willing to go.
I gotcha. So if Horde continues to push, then RMC obviously can't fight all of Horde. Actually, I don't think any single alliance besides maybe Goons can fight all of Horde. But
yeah, it's a coalition thing.
But if they pull back, then Fire and RMC might continue to kind of go at it, which was really what kicked this whole thing off. So.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, my cat also says hello. She thinks I talk to her when I talk because she doesn't understand the concept of the internet, sadly. But so if that's, do you know? I'm gonna ask. I think when Asher took over Imperium, he made a comment that the war technically wasn't his, it wasn't his decision. But do you know really what caused kind of the retreat? Was it just, hey, we can't fight everyone, we don't want to fight, all these numbers, or was it something else, like different priorities?
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, after Asher took place, I guess he's not the one who's in the CEO position when the war started. So I guess to a certain degree that I don't know how to put it. It's still the coalition's mission, I guess, at that point to keep going with the war. But it's just what's the point at the end of the day, right? I mean, the whole purpose was to have our flag, make sure our borders protected, essentially. And then right now with Horde joining in, it's almost developing to a war, be another huge war in Nullsec, the big war we've seen from the last time. So I guess at this point they just the number doesn't work out, so we just pull back.
Yeah, because instead of going to like, I'm trying to think of like a way to phrase this so normal people understand, but like instead of going to a war that's kind of like there for fun, like people call them content wars of like, hey, we're gonna go shoot these guys, we have no investment, right? Like if Imperium loses this war, they're not losing land, they're just kind of, their borders are less secure. And same with like Pandemic Horde. Like Pandemic Horde's not invested in any of that land. Like they don't care if the iHubs are theirs or not or whatever, because they live in drone lands. So in theory, these wars of content are suddenly turning into like hell wars of like, hey, we're fighting for our land and our people, and we got to be on all the time and this and that. And people, those can be fun when you want them to be, but a lot of times it's a lot of effort from a lot of people, and not
Yeah.
when you don't have that dedication, it's extremely obnoxious to try and run one of those wars.
I mean, like 200 and 200 on each side at any time is pretty fun, but when you add up to 800 on each side and it's like 10% tie-dye, that's when it's like not fun. And that's when it's like the worst kind of thing. It's like 10% tie-dye, nothing you can do. Like your computer is constantly getting strained. Like you don't know if the next second you're going to get disconnected or not. And that's when all the uncertainties, all those like big tie-dye wars happens, and it's just not fun for me at least.
Yeah. And I think Keo Ryan said it very succinctly in chat. Like short-term wars are fun, right? Like you're not putting a lot on the line. Whereas like long-term wars are stress nuking because yeah, it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of fun like putting in effort into Eve for a little bit and like doing these things, but not for long periods of time. Especially, I'll say, especially for like somebody in Asher's position, right? If Imperium's pulling back, he didn't choose this war. He just kind of got it handed to him. So, like, I can kind of see, I see why Imperium pulls back. People are probably going to want to spin whatever propaganda they want, but the fact that, like, these big, I always get annoyed when big coalitions go and, like, poop on little groups trying to just do their own thing. It's like, you don't got to bat. I wish Eve didn't have the bat phoning, but that's another topic I don't know if we want to talk about.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's like all these things of Eve that make, that kind of define the game as it is. Some of them player driven, and then a lot of it not player driven.
It's like the objective of the day type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of sometimes it's hard to get the numbers lined up. Like it's very easy to go over number or under number. It's really hard to just get just the right number for people to come to fight you, and you also have a chance of winning. Like if
Yeah.
you get too much, it's like they're not gonna form. So they're just gonna stand down, let you win the objective, and like unless it's like a key iHub or like a key structure type of thing, people won't like sacrifice like a full fleet of hacks for it type of thing.
Yeah. Instead, it's kind of like, what is it? You have two people like standing there, nobody makes the first move, and then everyone goes home, and it's kind of like, not fun for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, also hacks are now like cheaper, which is a good thing. That's like is giving more confidence, I guess, to people to be able to fight a war with less chance, but still, is still like, is it worth it type of thing?
Yeah. And so you are Dracaris. So where is home for Dracaris? You guys actually live with the rest of Imperium, or do you guys have your own space or like section of space?
Well, we're beside them technically. So Goons are home in Delph, and we're just right beside them in Quirius.
And so have you, I don't know if is this public or not, have you like made plans to move back home? I'm assuming Dracaris is moving with Imperium back home, or are you guys gonna stay and fight?
Nah, like it's a coalition ping, I think. I didn't see the Goons ping myself, so I don't know how much is said there. But we're also pulling back as well, alongside with the rest of the coalition.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and I saw someone in chat talk about Initiative too, I think was pulling out. But I think Initiative are still back in Fountains. They have like quite a ways to go if that's true.
Yeah, like every time it's like on the front lines, they're the one who traveled the most.
Yeah, those poor guys. And so if you guys are pulling back, then what's next for Dracaris then? Are you guys gonna just have some peacetime, or do you guys go out and find content elsewhere in the game?
I mean, if you think about it, the whole thing has started. This started with the SIG deployment almost about a half year ago. It's been a quite a long time. I think, at least for me, some rest time would be really helpful for the next while.
Yeah. No, no, that makes sense. Oh, we get a stream. All right. Yeah. All right. Nick's showing his screen. He has the handy dandy map, which I literally don't remember anything about. So you're going to be in Quirius then with the rest of your friends. And then I'm assuming peacetime is always like ratting or doing other things you enjoy. Maybe it's, I don't know. Some people do like chill sort of PvP, so they can go do that.
Yeah, some like home defense fleets, some like standing fleets, like just fighting people coming in. It's just chill and relaxing, I guess. There's not like an objective that you have to fight. And that's sometimes like the problem I find is you're always focused on the objective, and then they're important, of course, but it just like what are you trying to do? Are you trying to win the war or trying to have a fight?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also still the war in the north. I know it's been quite a few episodes since we talked about the war in the north. So that one is between Fraternity and then I think they call themselves the Greater Trash Coalition, which is kind of a rude name, but it's Volta, Brave, and then Friends. I say Friends kind of vaguely because they keep inviting people to it. But that war is also, I'm assuming if there's no war in the south to keep people occupied, then you guys might, maybe I say you guys, I say anyone who was in the war in the south might actually migrate then up to the north and help. Whether it be like one-off fleets or actually full deploying. I don't know if I'll see full deploying, but one-off fleets, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, pure blind. It's a place brewed with conflict.
Yeah. And then Dracarys is against Fraternity, right?
Well, we're not really against them. We're just in different coalitions. That's it.
Oh, okay.
It's not like in AOM where like they're literally enemies. Like
Yes,
we're
I was thinking
neutral
AOM.
technically. We're
Okay,
neutral.
okay. So you guys are neutral, so you could pick any side you wanted. Whereas, like, if you're AOM, you're probably going to go against Fraternity. I'm in PL, so PL is probably going to fight for Fraternity, mostly because we have, like, a long-standing history with them. But at the same time, it's also fun to... Because Fraternity doesn't... Or, I'm trying to think, does Volta or Brave? Brave has a U.S. time zone, so we could always go fight Brave. PL versus Brave is a long-standing tradition, too.
I mean, conflict is conflict. Fight is fight. It's always good fights.
Yeah, it's always good to have fights. So, with RMC and then Fire down in the south, I'm assuming they're still going to be there. Do you...
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like trying to see like more forward looking, like we did a little bit about the current state in the past, but what's going to be the future of those two? Because those, I mean, like Fire's not that big in comparison to some of these other alliances, and I think RMC is relatively small, and there's a lot of regions like being sort of evacuated and like left. So what's going to happen down there? Do you think they're going to continue to fight, or do you think other people might move in?
I mean, one thing that like we saw in Pure Blind, right, back in the days when the last full deployment of the coalition glassed everything up there, and right now that's a place for conflict. But the problem that I see with Tenerife and Immensity is more like Pure Blind is directly connected to LOSEC, and which means that people can, let's say, stage in Torinos and then just try to conquer like the entrance constellation and all that stuff in Pure Blind, and that's why conflict can be very constant because you can always just like start your fleet in high sec and then move to nullsec. But the problem with Tenerife and like Immensia is like they're kind of deep now. They don't have direct connection to any like empire space, so that it will be hard to see like say small alliances that's not really belong to any side to grow up there. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the fact that it is in Deep Null, people that would make sense. Like you want an alliance, but you don't want to get like instantly dumpstered the moment you try living in Nullsec. So you kind of move to this area where everyone's fighting each other, no one wants to fight you. But
Yeah, and also have a place to go back to, let's say, right? Because if you fail or like have a fleet retreat, if you're in deep null, it's just safe lock, nothing else.
yeah, that's true too. So like if you take the effort to move all the way out there, or just the logistics of getting like, I don't know, structures out there, it's gonna be like super tedious. But if you manage to do it, you can maybe kind of like live on your own and not have anyone bother you.
Yeah, yeah.
But that'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see how that will shape out. I'm always hopeful that more small groups or like newer groups are able to kind of like find their footing. Probably easier in Pureblind in the past than it is right now in the South.
Yeah, Pureblind connecting with Tribute and everything, like you can bridge there with a Blackout because it's not really Titan in high sec and low sec. I mean, bridging Titan I guess is a thing in low sec, but like it's more like you have a range of places you can go to, and that you can always jump in back to some low sec systems to stage in. You don't have to stage in null because in null, unless you have NPC stations, it's just stations will pause, and then if your structure gets hit, it's gonna be complicated. Like you have to evac and all that stuff.
Yeah, and with I was gonna say, that reminds me, the new structure changes where the mediums, like you can't just like place an Astra and have like a bunch of cruisers or battleships out of there, because Astras die in like what is it, like two reinforced cycles or one initial reinforce and then death or whatever.
Yeah, initial shield gone and then all gone.
Yeah, so that's gonna be really crappy for new groups. I never realized I'm connecting all the dots now. It's early for me, so my brain's turning still.
Yeah, I mean, like safely to put on 40 star, but like again, the bigger the structure is, the more traction you're gonna give to kill mail, and that more or less is a good thing or bad thing. They're gonna have a lot of people putting a target on you, but at the same time, maybe you can get some friends. Who knows?
Yeah, that'll be good. Finding folks. That's kind of like how the bat phone thing starts out. Like you're like, oh, we just want some friends so we don't get instantly dumpstered. The next thing you know, you're like calling massive coalitions to help you win a fight.
I mean, that's the thing. We want like neutral. That's why like neutral small group fights are pretty fun when there's no tie-dye, just like 100 on each side type of thing. But like once you get to like a full fleet of ships, it starts to be a little bit hectic. Like when you have to worry about like tackles and you have positions, you make sure you don't get bubbled and all that stuff because you have a lot of people. Not everyone's skill is on point. Not everyone knows what to do. So you always get a few people left behind and you're trying to catch up with them and all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I get you. I know chat's really active right now too. I'm trying to like filter through actual comments versus people pushing propaganda because it's EVE Online and everyone loves their propaganda. So we have War in the South, which is ending, and then we have the War in the North, which I'm assuming is still going on. I haven't heard any changes, but I also haven't heard any like major developments, I would say. There has been fighting. Oh, we can talk about, I was gonna say there's been fighting in low sec, and then there's a bunch of lore. Oh my gosh, lore in low sec. That's hard to say. And then there's been, what was it? Just lore in general. I feel like CCP has come out with a bunch of information around lore in the future, and I mean we're rapidly approaching fourth quarter, so we should be seeing faction warfare updates. Have you been following any of that, Shen?
Yeah, I mean, they did a narrative arc stream, I think a few days ago. They said the first wave of things will come in September. This has been like the only new content update, at least as far as like people who live in Null considers, after the Concord, the crab beacon essentially. There's no new content after that. It's rebalancing and that's it. So this is a new piece of content, and hopefully, I really hope the alliance, the allegiance system will be set it up once that thing comes in, so that like even with my null character, I can still participate. Otherwise, it's just going to be a high sec and a low sec thing, and then you're going to exclude a good amount of people for it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, so I don't know how they're gonna do this with like a phased approach of like changing it, or if it's just gonna be one day we wake up and it's all in. The allegiance stuff is super critical though, to making it less about, hey, it's a faction warfare change versus this is a change that everyone can affect. And then I was talking a bit about the lore. So CCP has had all this lore and story around it because yes, the long story short is they're changing the faction warfare stuff, but why should players care? Like, you might be able to make ISK or I don't know, get kills or whatever, but why should you care from the holistic story-driven narrative of the game? And that's what CCP is bringing in. And Carneros points out CCP actually recently hired another narrative designer, which is super exciting. Somebody who's worked in like fantasy fiction realms before. So I'm actually super stoked for that. But there's been, I mean, we always see fighting in low sec. We're gonna have a future show about actually some of the fights we've seen in low sec because there have been a lot. But for now, we can talk just about the potential of faction warfare and how that change can actually have a huge impact into the rest of the game without people realizing it. I know people get really upset. Everyone's like, "Oh, man, what about me?" or whatever, not realizing a lot of stuff has already affected them, and that stuff coming out, which may not perceive to be affecting you, does actually affect you. So the allegiance system, right? So nullsec is all pirate space. The allegiance system will actually be able to affect that, and it should affect that, similar to how you have diamond rats, and if you farm up diamond rats, they can actually protect you in nullsec.
Yeah, I mean, without the Legion system, it's gonna become. Is it a community event? Is it just gonna be a lore community thing, or it's gonna be a Eve thing? It's gonna be a server thing. If without the Legion system, it's just gonna be a player within the lore community will have fun with it. People maybe in low sec, faction warfare will have fun with it, but that's it. No more people. People have to sacrifice essentially to choose between either join the new thing or keep going what they have with their corp and all that stuff. But once the Legion system is in, everyone has the ability to choose which side they want to be on, and then without sacrificing what they have.
Yeah, exactly. So then they can, right? So when you're talking about times of peace, right? Like you want to go and maybe do like smaller fleets or, not as intense fleets. Well, this is an option that you could do. Take a wormhole to low sec, go find some folks, like have a good fight. Maybe, it's not 200 versus 200, but maybe more like 50 versus 50. And then you get some reward out of it besides kill mails. And then you can go home and still, still have fun and also contribute to the overall, like, I would say, what is it, like environment of faction warfare? Like you can see a direct impact of the things that you are doing or not doing. And I think that's really important for players to be able to have that.
And I don't know if this is just a nullsec thing because I've been living null for way too long, but I'm thinking what partial of SRP in faction warfare. I don't know if that's like even a possible thing, because that will encourage a lot of people bring expensive ships, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would depend on your group, right? SRP is a player invented thing, but it would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see if faction warfare could do something like that. Like, hey, Capsuleer, you fought for our side. Here's some compensation or whatever. Like, even if you won or lost your ship, because in that way, it's like you're able to kind of have that monetary value to replace your ship faster.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it helps new players in a certain sense, right? If you lose your first one, not the end of the day, you can get another one pretty cheaply with some compensation.
Yeah,
And then you have like make sure they have to fly in the right fit, right? Makes like there's just some ideas like you have to have enough EHP. Like say your EHP has to be this much, and your DP has to be this much. I don't care what fit you have, just as long as you pass those lines, you get SRP. Things like that. Like make sure they're in the right way, down the right road, right, with their fit, with everything else, and then they can get their SRP.
yeah, that'd be super sweet. And what is it like? You can do like what do they have at the frontline system with faction warfare? So you can fight on the front lines. You can go like behind enemy lines, sort of thing, which I think will be really interesting because a lot of faction warfare space connects to like either nullsec itself, or some of it will actually connect to just a few low sec systems directly to null. So some of these entities, right, can fly in and kind of get to low sec really quickly. Like I know I have stage out of LXQ with PL, and that's like within 10 jumps of getting into faction warfare. So if I wanted to, I could go and do that. And if it's not a frontline system, then I could go through the back lines and like try to like flip systems or whatever.
I just want to answer a question in chat. Key Orion asks how often do fleets experiment with the new build ideas? It's very rare. First reason because things that works, things that are meta for is meta for a reason, right? A service can fly fast for long range. Their fit is set up in a certain way for a certain reason, and also that if you don't change fits up way too often, then it's gonna create a lot of hassle logistically. and it's also going to create a lot of problem with skills. That's why you see doctrines are doctrines for a period of time, a few months or a year type of thing. They don't really change that like for like really rapidly.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is, what would you call it, like theory crafting? So I don't know if you'd say, hey, a whole fleet is out trying something new, but people, it's like FCs or theory crafters spend a lot of time in PIFA or EFT or whatever, just like trying new fits. And then if they find something they think is worthwhile, they can invest in it and actually go out and fly it. But that's not a lot of times does it make it that far.
Like you don't. Okay, I just keep going with that question. Like it's not until you run into a brisk wall is more often is when things doesn't like you get bored of it essentially. Like Communion Fleet can deal with like I would say 80% of the situations, no matter long range, short range. It's good for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have other questions in chat? I'm watching you guys all chat. Carneros has been pretty active. Oh, Soda Man was asking. So both him and Carneros, or me and Carneros answered his question, but he was asking about Imperium pulling out. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're discussing. So Shen's on the Imperium side with Dracarys, and I'm on the Horde side with PL, and we're just kind of going back and forth over what happened, kind of the history, and then as well as future state. And then I got sidetracked talking about LoSec because I love faction warfare. We could also talk about the Alliance tournament too, if you want to, Shen. I love talking about the Alliance tournament.
I think we get like the event, right? Get that.
Oh yeah, the event, the Caldari Union Day.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Right. Okay. Here we go. So this year, so last year we had a similar thing as Caldera Union Day. It's much smaller. It's literally the same as Amara one, which is log in for like I think a week or something like that, and then that's it. You get some free skins, you get some free skill points, and that's about it. But this year is similar to the Mimitar one, but the scale down. So the Mimitar one was up to a Navy faction cruiser. At this time, it's only going to be technically a faction destroyer, which is like literally the only one is Kikimora. So it's just T1 destroyer and downwards, including T2 free. And this year, there's hacking, resource war, and combat sites. All those are pretty easy, I will say, with a T2 frigate on. I can see why T1 destroyers will have problem tanking it, not gonna lie. But T2 with T2 resist, with the let's say assault damage control, things are not that hard. At least in high sec. I've seen people saying the low sec ones are pretty darn hard, but high sec is pretty easy. So starting with the time is August 12. No, running until the 6th of September for 12 days. And then it's similar to the Mimitar one. You have 8 mega corps to choose from. And basically, essentially, like Mimitar is made out of tribes, and Caldera is made out of corps, like big companies, essentially. And you get like 2 AU of warp speed bonus alongside with those hacking sites. So the hacking sites, okay, the hacking site itself, usually the hacking site is around a level 3 or level 4 scanning difficulties. If you know what that means, it's in NoSec. Those things are pretty hard to scan down, I would say. It takes a long time, but usually the hacking itself is pretty easy. It's a green core usually, but this time it's different. It's a red core, and then the reward is not that good. At least in high sec. The reward is not that good. So it takes a lot of effort, but not a lot of reward, I would say, for the hacking side. As far as I've seen, I tried a few of them myself. As far as for the combat side, it's so you have 4 rooms. You warp into the first gate with no rats, and then you go in for the first room. First room is Rook Jones. It's pretty easy to have no resist EM thermal damage. There's not much to it. It just you can tank it, and just there's a deactivated gate. Just approach that. Once you're done, just activate the gate. The second room is Goristas. It's like less than 10 of them usually. And the third room is Triglavians. the most scary one will be the starving one, which is the cap neutral one. The last room is and then it's Galante Navy essentially. Killing those are not a problem unless you run into way too much catalyst on you. And then the last like boss of the site is going to be a Vexer. Vexer is really, really crisp. Like it just takes like a few shots and it's dead. It's not that hard. I'll say that. So I have a fit with the Retribution. Retribution, so far, I tried it with the Retribution and a Harpy. Like Retribution works the best because like the range is the best essentially for the Retribution when compared to the DPS. Harpy is way too short with blasters, and then the DPS doesn't really make up with the railguns. So Retribution is always the best. Yeah, like there is an A-type repair on it. It's a little bit expensive, I know, but like I just have it lying around. That's why I have it on there. You can try it without it, but there's also the assault damage control. It's just for panic essentially. There is sometimes you like I said in the last room, you're gonna run into a lot of catalysts, and railgun, just hybrid weapon on T2 armor ship is always a problem. So like if you need it, just tap that, and then 30 seconds you have enough time to clear all the catalyst, and it should be able to clear the site.
Yeah, we shared that in chat for those who kind of want a more permanent picture to kind of copy it off of. But no, this is good. Thank you, Shen. I was gonna say I'm not too into running these sites. I kind of want to try the hacking ones, but instead I just log in and collect my rewards and then do my normal daily activities. But you think it's worth it? You think the rewards are worth it?
It's around like 7-8 minutes per site. It's about 20 million average out, like 15 to 20. Like compared to Nosec ratting, I think it's worth it, but different for different people, I guess.
Yeah, I gotcha. And then, so we've had every other day already, haven't we? So we've had the Galente event, the Mimitar event, the Mar event, and this is the Caldaria one, right?
Yeah, there's the last one.
All right, so I think after this should be, what's the next event? The Halloween? I think there's always a Halloween.
Yeah, the Halloween.
One.
It should be the Halloween one.
All right, so folks who really like events will be your last one for a little bit. And then it goes, I think, Halloween and then to the Winter Festival one.
Yeah, it's going to be Blood Raider and then Sansha. So those two events are like the universal available type of thing. Like you can do it anywhere you want. It's just this type of like in the summer, all those like Union Days, Federation Days, all those things are just faction specific, and that you have to do it in their own space, which is sometimes a little problem. Okay, so this is a problem I find with the event itself, is like since it's not like available all across the board, you have people concentrated in only those few regions, and that there's not enough sites essentially. There's just way too less sites for people to fight with, and then it's just people have to fight for sites, and it's not going to be fun for like new players especially. Like I can outgun someone with a T1 frigate when I'm in my Harpy. That thing hits up to 300 DPS in a frigate. Is like, especially in the last room where you just approach the boss and then just start hitting it. There's not much things a new player can do when there's two less sites, when people are going to be fighting for it.
And then there's no way, like, can you do it as a fleet? So yeah, if you want to compete with someone, but can you team up with people and still all get the rewards, or is it very specific to like whoever gets final blow or something like that?
No, it's whoever deals the most damage on the boss, the most damage. So just that one person.
Oh, so if you're all trying to work together, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's not gonna work that well. It's just basically your personal damage. Whoever can do the best. And then I'm pretty sure it's Zhong aggro really bad as well, since it's an event. Zhong aggro is always a problem.
Yeah, that's how they combat people trying to automate it with old fits, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's frustrating though. That
yeah,
sorry, go on.
to discourage like I guess and dragoons, those two ships. And the Ishkur, I guess, a problem. Tristan is a problem, but mainly like your best bet is to use just weapons like guns for it.
Yeah, that's frustrating though that Like, why would they not? I wish GCP did more events where it's like it made sense to team up. Like, hey, grab your buddies, go to a site, right? Like, and so instead of somebody having to invest in a blue mod for the retribution or whatever, like you could have a bunch of folks out in their T1 ships, trying things out and having fun with it.
I mean, that would just turn into multi-boxing. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
What? I wish there was just
we all know that too well. We all know that way too well for as a Eve player.
No, but normal people usually just fly around with their friends instead of like quad boxing or pentaboxing or whatever you want to call it.
I guess it's just efficiency at this point. Like, you have no idea when the other person is gonna go online. If you're online, all of your alts gonna be there with you, but you never know, right? If your buddy is gonna be at an event today or having some sort of hangout with other people, they're not there. You're kind of screwed. So, like, right, like it's the more dependent you are on other people, the less freedom you have, I guess, in that sense. That's why I guess that's the whole philosophy, I guess, behind multiboxing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think it's interesting from like Eve as a game, right? Like you're like a high sec, for example, right? So you're doing your thing in high sec and you come across somebody else that's doing it. Instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna try and steal this guy's loot, it's more of like, oh, invite them to fleet, and then you both can like get the points, right? I'm assuming it has the point tracker or whatever, but someone in chat mentioned that all the reward was loot. So you could, if it's all loot.
There is a tracker. There's a tracker.
Oh, okay.
The biggest is like a Caldera Union Day Golem skin. It looks really good. I would say that. It looks really good.
Yeah, so I guess if it's loot, you could split that. But like for the points, if it was some way to like share the points, right? Because those are account bound cosmetics, so I don't see why it would be an issue if like people, like if you were to game it or whatever with your alts. But if you're able to like, hey, let's split the loot or something, like that would be super cool to kind of see people share and whatnot.
Yeah, like Ashrasi mentioned, there's also the resource war. If you want to do that, I think that's a group thing. You can set a group of, but combat side is usually solo.
Right, combat solo, but mining's group. Man, I wish it'd still be cool to have combat be a group, but the fact that they at least have something for a group is good.
Combat for group is usually requires really hard like stuff, like incursion and stuff like that. Like if it's easy and people just it has to be hard to a point where a person cannot use a blue mod ship to do it. A lot of times people just use a blue mod ship to do what it takes for T2 fit like 2 other people to do.
Yeah.
So it has to be hard to the point where like it's impossible. Like there, like for example, Pirate Strongholds. It's easier to do with like say 2 Loshaks or 4 Dominixes, but it's possible to do it with solo Paladins. It's just how much do you want, like
okay.
Like how much accounts you have and how much stress you don't have.
The stress is a factor too. It's kind of like the war.
Oh yeah, like every rep you see your armor from like 50% to 100% every round. Yeah, that creates stress.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I'm just teasing. But yeah, no, it's good. I like it when CCP allows for players to do stuff in groups. Like or at least groups to the point where you're not having to multi-box. That stuff's always annoying. Like what is it? The Triglavian stuff, the filaments where you can like take 3 friends. I've done that with my friends. It's so much fun. We all just like scream at each other as we die, but it's hilariously fun.
Yeah, those sites. I mean, yeah, that's the kind of thing. Like, it requires more than a blue mod retribution to do a frigate like T3, T4 sides. Like, I think the frigate maxed out is like T2 solo to doing it. T3 is extremely hard for solo frigates.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind because like newer players can get into frigates pretty easily. If there's some way to make it hard for multi-boxers, but easy for you and your friends, all in like frigates T1 or T2, just hanging out, I think that'd be fun.
Well, you kind of just asked the ultimate question, right? How can you differentiate a multi-boxer and friends, right?
Yeah, no,
like, they act the exact same, right? When you have 2 screens, they do the exact same thing. So, like, if one day that can be true, and then we're gonna see a lot more, like say, content develop towards that end.
Yeah, I mean, The scary thing is, right, some video games have this where they just ban multi-boxing. Like, hey, you can't be online on the same account or on different accounts at the same time. And like, I think that'd be a terrible idea if CCP were to do it. But like, if there was some way to make it like, oh hey, like it's harder to multi-box, or I don't know, maybe they up the APM of the game. So instead of like 1 second server ticks, it's like 0.1 second server ticks or something like that, or 0.01. So you have to have higher APMs, therefore multi-boxing is discouraged. Maybe not discouraged, but like impossible to do. Like it's okay if you're doing it of like you're like you have a scout or something, but like in a fleet you're shooting and then you have your scout that you're looking at. But if you have like three accounts in a fleet, it becomes extremely difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Ash raised a good point in the chat, like giving people slightly different tasks to do in different locations. But like, if you think about what's it called, tier 6 abyssal sites, people who triple box them, they're doing different things. Like, of course, yes, two of them are doing almost the same thing, right? To shoot the same target, but they have a logic. Like, they have to remember not to shoot their own frigate, but rapid. Like, make sure the guns are in two different spots, not F1, F2, like F1, F5 type of thing. Like, I think people can get over with it.
I mean, but it would encourage more multi-boxing, right? I feel like the people who triple box high-end abyssals or whatever are like, I don't know. I feel like they're like the very small minority of people who like are really good at something like that.
Yeah, I just don't have the mental capacity to do it, essentially. It takes a lot of mental work.
Yeah. And so Circadian Seeker is saying the technical challenge of multi-boxing ban aside, why would it be a terrible thing? The thing is because of Eve limiting you by skill points, you have to multi-box, right? Or not multi-box, you have to have multiple accounts or multiple characters to do something. So if I want to have a trade character, I cannot do it on my main character that's a combat character. Similar if I want another character to be like a mining pro, like I should be able to have like those 3 separate characters. And if you're like, well, you can just skill inject, then it becomes like this huge, then you're just gating it by money, right? Saying, oh, if you don't have the money to have everything on one character, that's your fault, right? And so like that's where it's like not a good thing, especially when you think of like the work FCs do in this game or other people do. Like, hey, I want to do logistics for my alliance, or hey, I want to FC a group. It's good to have all of those multiple accounts for like scouting. You may not be like multi-boxing 3 characters in one fleet, but you're using them as scouts or backup anchors or something along those lines.
Yeah, and then Sino ships type of thing. Like, if you're cat players,
Sinos
yeah, it's always
or
good
your
to have a Sino.
Titan. Like, hey, I have a
Axe out.
yeah, hey, I have a Titan to bridge my fleet, sort of thing. Instead of like, oh, hey, bro, you have to be the Titan bridge, and then you can't come on the fleet, and like, so that's kind of why. My main. Yeah, I just gave an example of why you want them all on the same time. You may not for your Jita alt, but then if you live anywhere else besides Jita, then you have to go to Jita every time you want to do something in Jita, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I think we can talk about. Did we talk about the sale from last time?
Sale. I usually don't talk about CCP sales.
Oh, no, like the sale about the Plex, because Plex price just hiked up like nuts.
Oh, because of the sale?
Yeah, because of the sale. So it's very similar to what happened last time. So I compared this, a 500 Plex beforehand was about, I think, 21.5, somewhere there. No, 2.15 billion for 500 Plex. And after the sale, because with the sale, instead of 500 Plex per month, it becomes 425. So that it requires less, which means that it creates more demand, which in turn creates a higher price. So like the price at the end is around like 19.7, 19.5-ish. No, 1.95, 1.997-ish billion for per 500, no, per 425. So in a way that CCP did a sale for like about, I think, 15% off, but you only save about like 100 million.
So price of Plex goes up, but people are
And
saving money.
it
if
never
they use
comes
them.
down. The problem is it never comes
Oh,
down
it never
afterwards.
comes down.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Yeah. So basically, Plex just higher, more and more expensive now. Like it's basically it grows a little bit and then it gets a jump once if you do a sale and keep going from there and then jump from there.
Interesting. So if you've invested in Plex, you should keep investing because obviously its price is going to go up and not come down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the ratio between real money cash and ISK didn't change that much. What changed is the ratio of Plex. The ratio between Plex and money and Plex and ISK. That's what changed.
I got you. I think Ash is saying the same thing in chat of how like the monetary value has gone up.
Yeah, like who would ever imagine, right? Plex right now is hitting 4.5 for buy orders. Who knows if one day each Plex will be 5 million? We're on that trend right now.
Was that how that was way more expensive than what it was in the past, right? Like I thought Plex never got above like 3 million each, or am I thinking of something completely different?
I think you're saying like a year ago is 2.5. Right now we're hitting 4.5.
Oh, so that's a huge spike in the
Yeah.
short term.
Yeah, it was a huge spike. That's what it means. Like technically we're on a summer low point usually. Usually, like for the past few years of, I guess, experience, it's like usually the price of Plex goes down during the summer and then goes up because more people play, more demand, all that stuff. But this year during the summer, it just spiked up.
That could also be in part by the price increase for subs. There's a question in chat by Mickle. He's asking, why does it not recover, right? So when it goes up, why does it not come back down to where it was before?
Okay, there's a few theories, I guess, like I have, but like the one that I think is true is just like right now we are having more people who wants to pay using game time, like they're actually ratting for Plex to get a Plex, than actually were willing to put money, like actual cash into the game, so that there are less people buying Plex on the CCP website and more people trying to Plex their account by ISK. And that inverse of the balance essentially keep the price up no matter what.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mickle?
It's really complicated. Like we have to see some real data for it, but like we're just not getting them. And then the higher the price is, the less player is gonna be there, and the less players willing to invest into the game with cash. And that's the higher the price is gonna be. It's gonna go into the cycle. I feel like it's gonna keep going until a point where until a point where we hit, let's say it's a new update with the faction warfare stuff, where there's a lot of new players coming in who's willing to, let's say, pay for some Plex to get some good ships to start with like their new E5, and that they're willing to put a lot of money into the game, and that the Plex have a lot more supply, so that the price will either keep steady or going down a little bit.
So there's a lot riding on this faction warfare update we were talking about earlier then.
I mean, to CCP's point, they're always saying, I mean, this is what they always said, which is the higher the price is for Plex, the better they are at bot preventing. I think that's
that's true too, yeah.
That's what they say. But like, this is a little bit too much. 2.5 to 4.5. That's like almost like not even like, yeah, almost 100% increase.
Yeah. See, all this stuff goes way over my head. I'm not a very market person. I obviously don't have any stocks.
Yeah.
I just buy what I want and then ignore the rest.
Like essentially, the Plex price will, like, if it's gonna go up or down, it depends how well. Yeah, like Asher Rossi said, the expansion is gonna be received at. Like, if there's a lot of people joining, then the price of Plex will go down. But if not, then it's just gonna keep going up. Less and less people willing to to basically say, basically got disappointed and saying, oh, I don't want to play this game anymore. Like CP disappointment over and over again. I'm not going to pay for this. I'm just going to rat with how much ISK I have. And if I don't get it, I'm just not going to plex my account. And if that kind of theory goes down and that less people buying plex, then we're going to have this price increase for a long time.
I gotcha. Which would be bad. That's kind of like the death spiral, right? Like it just increases forever.
Yeah, like is we're in loop. Essentially, we're waiting for the expansion to break the loop. If the expansion doesn't, it will only make it worse.
Alrighty, well, we have till September, which is in like 3 days. Or at least whenever it drops in September. September itself is in like 3 days, but it's until CCP actually releases the like part 1 or phase 1 or whatever they want to call it of faction warfare. There's also the Alliance tournament coming up, so I'm also stoked for that. A lot of people come back for that. It's also a good marketing tool for CCP because they stream it. They should be streaming like 4 weekends now instead of just 2 or 3 like they've normally done, because they have the trials and they have the actual Alliance tournament. My cat says hello. She has come back to me.
Yeah, price of plex. Soon we're gonna hit 5 million. I feel like before the end of the year. Like if the expansion doesn't get received well, we're gonna hit 5 million before the end of the year. I feel like it's almost guaranteed with the trend we're going on right now, especially since May.
Yeah. So if Plex is at 4.5 million now, how much is that for 1 month of sub? Do you know off the top of your head?
2.25 billion.
Oh my god, that's really high. What the heck?
Yeah, like at like midway through April, not even hitting May, it's around 3 million per plex, and now at the end of August, we're hitting 4.5. That's a 50% increase there.
That's really high. That's crazy.
Yeah, it takes us what 4 months? Yeah, it's gonna take another 4 months. Like if at this rate we're going, who knows? We're gonna hit 6.
Yeah, that's gonna be absolutely wild. Sorry, everyone's roasting me because of my cat. She comes and says hi. She thinks I'm talking to her and not you. Sorry, Shen.
Hello.
Now she's just staring at me. But yeah, so what besides like the X pack, is there anything CCP can do to make the price of Plex go down? Like if they, because like
lower the price.
the like dollar value of Plex going
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, essentially.
Oh man, I don't know. I doubt they're gonna do that with everything just increasing, unless they have sales. Like if they have a Plex sale.
Oh,
And
like
then
the sale just happened. Like this is not gonna work.
wait, did they have a Plex sale and it went up?
I'm pretty sure, right? I think they had a sale both in New Eden store and on their website. I'm pretty sure that happened, and then
What?
yeah, that's the thing. They're in a really bad position right now. Like I don't know what kind of tools they have in their back pocket that like they can make the price of Plex going down, but it's not working. I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. We don't even know if CCP's goal is to have Plex price going down. Maybe what they want is to Plex price going up, right? Like they said, the higher the price, the less bots there are.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And then somebody in chat said, take the Plex off bots like they used to say they would do. CCP does that already. So for those who don't know, like when you have banned accounts, CCP actually uses those banned accounts as resources to compensate people who get hacked or anything like that. They also use it potentially as resources. I know they use the banned Plex as a way to control the market. I think they've always said that, because if you ever know someone who buys a ton of Plex, and not just like they bought $100 worth of Plex, like they bought a couple $1,000s worth of Plex, they get messaged by CCP to not flood the market and to mess with the prices and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a That's a
Another interesting thing, I don't know if Nick can pull up ETH Marketer, is alpha injectors. It's something called daily alpha injectors. So a daily alpha injector would happen before, if you look at the trends. Nick, are you able to do that? That it never hits 50 million. Like whenever it hits 50 million, there's a sale and then the price goes down. Every time it hits the 50 million, it goes down. So that like, but right now the price of that is hitting 60.
60
So,
what? 60 mil?
million, 60 mil, yeah.
It's that high for an alpha injector?
Yeah, I think it's getting there. Like, we well broke the 50 million mark essentially.
That's wild.
Plex is there, yeah.
All right, we have a correction chat. Carneros, who actually used to work at CCP, says they didn't use the banned Plex for the market, but private stockpiles of Plex owned by employees.
Yeah, like the sell order is already above 4.5.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, if you can just, I think it's under pilot services. Yeah, and then skill trading and then daily alpha injector. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's sell orders are already be above 60. So if you look at the price history, there's a lot of price going up and then go push down because of the sales that CCP does. Yeah, like, but every time it hits the 50 million mark, it gets down. Every time it hits the 50 million mark, it gets down. But right now it's above 60. So the price of that is increasing rapidly, and that CCP does not seem to be doing a sale at this time. So I guess RIP alpha players.
Yeah, I was always told the reason they had the alpha injector was their way of controlling the price of skill points. And then CCP kind of did away with that and just directly sells skill points for money. So I'm not really sure what the point of an alpha injector is anymore from a CCP marketing standpoint.
Yeah, usually the price of large skill injector, skill extractor, everything is related to Plex, because Plex, you can buy them essentially in your Eden store with Plex, so that the higher the price of Plex is, the higher the price of large scale injector is.
Yeah, I got you. What are large skill injectors at? I have terrible eyesight, so it's very hard to see Nick's screen. Oh, 800, 850. Okay. Interesting. Alrighty. So, man, that's kind of doom and gloom watching the market. I'm glad I kind of don't do this anymore. Or not anymore, ever. But
Yeah,
that'll be
guitar is
interesting.
being hard on prices nowadays. Like, it's a lot of risk for not many things.
Yeah. So after September then, Shen, do you want to join us again and then talk about how you think the expansion did with player reception based on the market and like not people actually
Yeah.
sharing? I think that'd
We're
be
going to see the price of everything, like, and then see how it goes, essentially. If the price goes down, then they did a good job, essentially.
interesting. All right. That sounds like it would be fun. I feel like having you and Kenneth and a couple other folks that we have here talking just about the market and only the market and how the trends of things work would be really interesting. Maybe not Kenneth. I don't know how much Kenneth does market. He does industry though.
Yeah, he does a lot of industry, like
Yeah, who
on
am I
his
thinking
scale.
of? I thought we had like another guru. Was it? It might have been Ren.
Rens,
Maybe.
yeah,
Is it Ren?
Ren.
Okay.
Yeah, probably Ren.
Having you guys on talking about it would be super interesting. Nick says he wants to talk indie. Him and Kenneth can go back and forth about that. All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I know I've gotten a request to talk about some of the low sec stuff, and then I know we haven't talked about the war in the north, so we'll have future episodes about that, as well as probably another as the Alliance tournament is coming up. They just announced the winners of the, gosh, what was it, silent auction. So if your alliance is not in the silent auction or has not been guaranteed a spot based on prior seedings or prior winners of other tournaments, then you may have to go through the trials round in order, or the feeders, I guess is their layman's names, but the feeder rounds in order to partake. But we may do another show about the details there coming up.
All right, there's also a sale for the Caldari stuff because it's their union day.
Yeah, like skins and stuff and cosmetics.
Yeah, their packs and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. CCB, I feel like, is always having sales if you want to watch for them.
It's a lot of skins essentially this time. It's just a lot of Union Day skins. They do look really cool. I do like the blue and the orange stripes. But yeah, the golden one looks really good. I really want to get that one.
You gotta grind, dude. You gotta grind those event sites. You told everyone your secret now, so they're gonna go out there and compete with you with that retribution fit.
Oh no, like that retribution fit is comfortable to use, but it's not the highest DPS. The highest DPS is Harpy because Harpy just way too short. Like with the long range ammo, it hits not even to 10k. There's a lot of problem with it.
Yeah. And then Hurricane Warning is actually asking my take on goons retreating back to Delve. I mean, the leader took it over without really any commitment to it, and I do not blame people for leaving a war because war is effort. I'm a line member, dude. Like I barely do Logi FCing, Logi anchoring, Logi FCing or whatever, Logi commanding, and so I do not blame people for all the logistics work that goes into running a war. I don't ever want to do that, so I don't blame people for not doing it. No, it's all good, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Shen, did you have any other thoughts before we start closing it out? We're at the hour. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to touch on.
I would say the low sec size. Oh yeah, okay. I'll give one more point about Kikimora in the event. In theory, they are the best. The problem I find with Kikimora in terms of fighting with bosses is just that Kikimora takes a time to scoop up their damage, and that like at the end it will hit like somewhere around 600 DPS, but that's after like 2 minutes of scooping up on a structure type of thing. But on that boss, it takes about like 10 to 20 seconds to kill. It's not going to ramp up, therefore it's not going to be able to compete with other ships. And now like everything we're thinking about is fully on competition between different ships, just because the site is not enough. Essentially, it's very scarce.
I gotcha. So people should not use the Kiki. They should use the Harpy, even though it has its flaws.
Well, Harpies or NUs, anything that's short range, short DPS type of thing, short range high DPS, that's going to be able to compete. It's just the longer range, the less DPS, the more comfortable you're going to be with.
Alrighty, I gotcha. That's good to know. Nick, I know you can't talk. Do you have any final thoughts that I can convey to the chat? Nick says you guys were all really terrible and he had to work really hard as a moderator and he'd appreciate if chat would be nicer to each other. I'm kidding. He didn't say any of that. He actually can't talk. But anyway, thank you, everyone. So I'm Rain. Thank you, Shen, to showing up and talking about, I want to say like literally everything. We had a variety of topics today, but you were able to handle all of them. Very good insights, especially on some of the stuff I wasn't really understanding of, like the Plex market. But thank you, everyone. So tune in next week. I'll aim to talk about the stuff in LoSec. I've gotten some DMs about those, or to talk about the war in the north. But thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good weekend and a good week. I'm sitting and waiting. We still show on the thing.